Hi, it's Patrick from IntensiveCareHotline.com, where we instantly improve the lives of families of critically ill patients in intensive care, so that you can have peace of mind, real power, real control, and so that you can influence decision making fast, even if you're not a doctor or a nurse in intensive care. This is another episode of Your Questions Answered, and in last week's episode I answered another question from one of our readers, and the question last week was part 2 of My Auntie is in intensive care on Ecmo for ARDS. We're very worried she may die. We need help. Part 2. You can check out the answer to last week's question by clicking on the link below this video. In this week's episode of Your Questions Answered, I want to answer another question from one of our readers. And the question this week is part 3 of My Auntie is in intensive care on Ecmo for ARDS. We're very worried she may die. We need help. Part 3. So, Lee from the UK writes, Hi Patrick. Today we went to the hospital and my auntie has been put back asleep and back to the induced coma. The doctor said she was fighting against the ventilator and she's also back on dialysis as she can't get rid of her fluids. She's not making enough urine either. She's very swollen again and my auntie needed sedating more. Her oxygen levels had increased as well. They say that her lungs are really wet and they are considering Ecmo again. This is quite a setback from yesterday. They also said if this 3 days lifespan on the hemofilter and dialysis doesn't work, they will flip her on the Ecmo again as a last chance. They did also mention that they can only put her back on Ecmo again if Ecmo is available. What are your thoughts? Thank you, Lee. Hi Lee. Okay, I can clearly hear your concerns. I'm very sorry to hear that your auntie is currently going backwards. Setbacks can happen during critical illness in intensive care, especially after Ecmo and ARDS. Whilst it doesn't sound good what you are describing, let's put some perspective around it. Your auntie's lungs are wet, therefore they have put her back on the hemofilter or the dialysis machine. It's hard to tell from here why your auntie is breathing against the ventilator, and as I said yesterday on Skype, this can happen. Waking up from an induced coma can be a big challenge, especially when you are attached to a ventilator and you can't communicate properly. Therefore, fear may be a huge factor for your auntie. One way out of the dilemma might be to optimize your auntie's sedation, which may be challenging with her mental health issues. However, it's doable. Also, ask for your auntie's chest x-ray and what the results of her latest chest x-ray was. And always keep in mind that intensive care teams tend to be very quick in pointing out the negative, and they can be very quick in painting a doom and gloom picture. You shouldn't buy into it. I also don't like when they say that they may put your auntie back on Ecmo if it's available, almost implying that you and your family will not have any control who is making this crucial decision. You should always read between the lines what the intensive care team is saying and what they are not saying. Also, as I mentioned yesterday on Skype, try and get a feel whether the people in the intensive care unit tend to be overly negative. If that's the case, you and your family need to challenge that, and you need to make up your own, more positive reality. Don't let this difficult situation wear you down or become negative. Once again, being on Ecmo for 6 days is not very long, and some patients may have to go back on it so that their lungs can heal and improve. You should also check out some related articles and videos. One of them is How long can a critically ill patient stay on Ecmo? And the other one is What the doctors and the nurses' behavior in intensive care is telling you about the culture in a unit. You should check those articles and videos out by clicking on the links below this video if you are on our website at intensivecarehotline.com. So, whilst there are some setbacks, they do happen, and stay strong and optimistic and keep challenging the intensive care team and their assumptions. Only by doing so, you will get to the truth of the matter. Also, because the intensive care team appears to be negative, and because they are trying to already limit the resources in your and in their mind by telling you if Ecmo is available, you need to keep asking whether they don't want to spend the resources, which means time, effort, money, staff, and also emotional resources to get your auntie out of ICU alive. So let me know how things go, and I can continue to help you. Let me know if you need to go on Skype again, and we can have another chat there. Thank you. So, how can you have peace of mind, control, power and influence whilst your loved one is critically ill in intensive care? You get to that all-important feeling of peace of mind, control, power and influence when you download your free Instant Impact Report now by entering your email below. In your free Instant Impact Report, you learn quickly how to get peace of mind, real power and real control, and how you can influence decision making fast whilst your loved one is critically ill in intensive care. Your free Instant Impact Report gives you in-depth insight that you must know whilst your loved one is critically ill or is even dying in intensive care. Sign up and download your free Instant Impact Report now by entering your email below. In your free Instant Impact Report, you learn how to speak the secret intensive care language so that the doctors and the nurses know straight away that you are an insider and that you know and understand what's really happening in intensive care. In your free report, you will also discover how to ask the doctors and the nurses the right questions, discover the many competing interests in intensive care, and how your critically ill loved one's treatment may depend on those competing interests, how to eliminate fear, frustration, stress, struggle and vulnerability even if your loved one is dying. You get 5 killer tips and strategies helping you to get on the right path to peace of mind, control, power and influence in your situation. You will get real-world examples that you can easily adapt to your and your critically ill loved one's situation. How to stop being intimidated by the intensive care team and how you will be seen as equals. You will get crucial behind-the-scenes insight so that you know and understand what's really happening in intensive care, and how you need to manage doctors and nurses in intensive care, and it's not what you think. Thank you for tuning into this week's Your Questions Answered episode, and I'll see you again in another update next week. Make sure you also check out our blog section for more tips and strategies, or send me an email to support@intensivecarehotline.com with your questions. Also check out our product section where you get more ebooks, videos and audio recordings, and where you can also get one-on-one consulting with me. This is Patrick Hutzel from intensivecarehotline.com, and I'll see you again next week in another update.